Greg. Nice to meet you, mate.
We're there, Pete. How are you?
Now we are live, ladies and gentlemen. You are more than welcome to your weekly dose of Mauls, Balls and All. It is Thursday. It is just gone 8:30. We are slightly late, so apologies about that. Joining me this evening are two familiar faces. We are expecting one more, Darragh Weston. He is slightly delayed. He's got tied up with work. But joining me at the moment is Matt Boland, and we have Richard Holland is joining us. Also returning to us. He has been a guest on our show before. He is for the rugby purists and for anyone who watches rugby, both men's and women's, they will know exactly who this gentleman is. He is, of course, Greg McWilliams. Greg McWilliams, how the hell are you, buddy? Are you well? Good to see you again.
Good to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Not at all. It is our pleasure. It is our pleasure, Greg. Listen, Greg, I'm going to ask you, the recent article in the Irish Indo, that was, I saw it, read it, but for those who didn't read it, Greg, and maybe they might not be too familiar with the background to it, I'm looking at the subtext there of that particular article. Struggled to get out of bed, but don't look back in anger. Greg, can you explain to people who might not have read it what the thrust or the subject matter of that particular article was?
Yeah, well, look, again, thanks for having me on. I've been contacted a few times about doing a piece since I left the role with the Irish women 2 years ago, and I'd always put it off. Essentially, you go into a job of coaching your national side with the idea that things are going to go really well and you're going to bring joy to people and they're going to be successful. And I was very lucky that I was with good players and good teams previously, and we managed to have a wee bit of success. So I just presumed in my head that we get down to it, we'd work hard and things would work out. However, they didn't work out. Results went against us. And I struggled during that period, particularly the second year. So when the time came that I left the role, I went into a pretty dark place. And I did struggle to get out of bed. I know whether everything came down on me. I don't want to get too personal here, but my wife was sick with cancer. We were in America. We came back from America. I took the role, and I'd never really had a chance to reflect for maybe the previous 20 years. So when I actually finished and I was sitting down, I was just really disappointed with how it went. And I lost, I suppose, my love for rugby. And the article was explaining how I wasn't bitter about what happened at all. I was just disappointed. And I think it was just a good opportunity for me just to try and put a line in the sand. You know, I've had opportunities to go overseas to Japan and to the States. I've opportunities to go into the AIL, and something to stop me from going there. So when you've been an international coach, with men first, and then obviously with the women's side, with the women, things were going professionally. So we were away an awful lot, and I was away leading up to the World Cup in 2019. I would have been away for months on end. So I just had a look at myself and realized that I was just more interested in trying to be around a bit more for my family and my wife and things like that. So it was one of those reflective pieces. But obviously the main message was, while I was in the role, there was still so much outside noise about things that were happening before I'd gotten the role. And I just want people just to turn the page and move on, because these players are a brand new set of players. The RFU are in a completely different place. Funding has gone up exponentially. The coaching is brilliant. And I just think the main thing that we can do now is just support an Irish team like we all should as Irish people, and get behind them for the World Cup, and stop naysaying and stop giving out about what the RFU didn't do in 2017. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, a long-winded way of saying what happened, but that's pretty much what it was. So I went through a bad space mentally, and I refound my love of rugby recently, ironically coaching back in schools, which is where I would have coached for 15 years at St. Michael's College before I went to the game professionally.
All right. Okay. Well, that's good, and I admire your frankness and your honesty about that. But I think Greg, we've had Brent Pope on this show before. Mental health is something that is very underlooked in this country for whatever reason. I don't know. And we've had Brent Pope on, as I just said, and he has spoken admirably about the whole process of particularly men. I don't know why we don't talk about it. Now, I'm going down a rabbit hole here, which I didn't plan on going down. But I agree with you. Yes, we don't talk about it that much. And maybe we should. I admire Brent and what he's doing and what he's trying to promote with his elephant in the room. I admire what Brezzy does online about this whole mental health thing. Do you think that's it should be brought into the schools, even the schools thing, element or AIL? Greg?
Yeah, I actually work with Brent with the elephant in the room. He does great work.
Oh, very good.
I think for myself personally, it's one of those things that I don't know where my headspace was, but it is seen as a weakness. So I knew that putting that article out there, I'm sure there's people reading that going like, who's a softie talking about his feelings? And it's just something that I wanted to do to try and pave the way for other people who can openly speak about it. Because for so long, I kept it all to myself. Even when I was coaching the women in the last year, I struggled to sleep during the Six Nations. I struggled to eat, probably because I knew that the results weren't going to go our way. You can feel it. You're analysing the opposition teams, and they're all. I felt at that time they were in a different headspace now, but at the time I just felt they were stronger than us. I'd love to talk later on about data, because there's a really interesting data point that became very important to me working with Wayne Smith before, who's like one of the best coaches in the world. And then I got the opportunity to coach with Scott Robertson, who also went very strongly around this data point. So I brought that into the Irish women's game, and that's something that I think other teams have had more physicality around the collision, and I think without the collision in this game, it's very difficult to play. So, I mean, I just think it's one of those things that it's hard to talk about because you are worried about how people will perceive you. But I always say sometimes that it's harder to speak about and shows more strength. It's weaker to say nothing and keep it to yourself. So
yes.
That was the reason why when Sinead Kazan contacted me again about doing the piece, my main part was to try and get people to turn a page and get behind the team, because I think this team's improved. I think they're in a good space going to the World Cup, and it turned into more of an agony aunt piece, but that's how it worked. But
no, I like it. I like. Look, I know I know because you told us before about this the last time you were on, so I'm familiar with the setup. But just in case people watching weren't aware of that. But come here now to move on a lighter note. Greg, I was speaking with a colleague of yours, as you know, today, Justin Fitzpatrick, who has been on this show several times, and he writes good articles for our website, ruckthis.ie. And he tells me, Greg, that you do a mean impression of Ricky Gervais or Eddie O'Sullivan. Would you care to give us a sample before we move on to what we're supposed to be talking about?
Is there anybody listening to this, or is it just the four of us?
There will be. No. Believe me, we get the most watches after, because we got about 6, 7, 8, 1,000 people looking at this. So you'll be
really?
Well watched. Yes.
I don't know if you know The Office, but I grew up watching The Office. So essentially, when I was a school teacher and a coach, I pretty much felt at times I was David Brent. So he became a big part of my inner persona. So I don't give shitty jobs. If a good man comes to me and says, "Oh, Greg, thank you for the opportunity and support in the work-related arena, but I want to move on. I want to better myself. I can make that dream come true too," aka to you. You talk the talk, you do not walk the walk vis-a-vis. You can't pass off your left-hand side. So You get it, Peter? Oh, yeah.
Oh God, I think that's a bronze. That's a bronze medal, Greg. Seriously, that's a bronze medal there. Now.
It's hard when you're not drinking and you're put in the spot and you've got kids running around and you're just praying that they don't come in and disturb the conversation.
Well,
And
that's
the
it. That's
dog
true.
ripping around the place. But yeah, you put me on the spot. But I'll do it again when I'm in a different headspace and I'm able to have a few beers and do it.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Not a problem. Okay. All right. I tell you what. Now we move on. Okay. To the topics list that I sent. All right. Matt Boland. I'll start with Greg. Now, Greg, you've had your 11 minutes now, so I'll come to you now in just 1 minute. Matt Boland. The World Cup pools, the Women's Rugby World Cup is kicking off this weekend, as we all know. Well publicised by the IRFU. Let me see here. We've got the pool of death, Matt, would appear to be Pool D with France, Italy, South Africa, and Brazil. Actually, sorry, they could all be pools of death, to be honest with you. Matt, how do you think? Now, Ireland's pool, we have New Zealand, Ireland, Japan, and Spain. With our first game coming up this weekend against Japan. How do you think that's going to go, Matt?
Look, I mean, any game is tough. We all know that. But look, I mean, we've spoken about this many times on the show here before, and women's rugby in the last few years has been massively improved and is on the upward incline for the last few years. And it's great to see. And you know, the team present now is actually, there's some class players on that team, and we've spoken about it in length. I think they have a really good chat. They're definitely going to get out of this group, and I suppose the key game is going to be New Zealand, whether they're going to come first or second. And in recent times, they have beaten New Zealand, and you know they've had some really good results against the likes of France, who've they that game. So they could have the beatings of France as well when they, depending on what way they qualify for the quarterfinals. They may meet France, I think, in the quarters or something. But yeah, look, I would fully expect them to beat Japan, beat Spain, and all going well. Like they could do New Zealand. You know, they could. I know New Zealand have they've got how many, 6 or 7 World Cups already. They have a huge amount of World Cups already in the women's. No, I think they have. I think they have 6 or 7. But yeah, look, I mean, that's the game of the group. You know, Ireland and New Zealand, and that's the group decider of who wins and who comes second. So
I think that's the last game for us anyway in the pool, isn't it?
I think it is.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. It's our last game. Richard Holland, you're sorry. Go on, Matthew.
Yes, which is great to have it last because you've kind of got your two. I shouldn't really say warm-up games, but essentially the two easier games are ahead, and it'll just build their momentum nicely where they'll have the confidence if they beat them two teams going into New Zealand to have the momentum. So,
yeah, all right, fair enough. Thanks, Matt. Richard Holland, your own thoughts on this? What I've asked Matt about the group stages, pool of death, Ireland's opening games.
Yeah, look, New Zealand. No matter the code and no matter the gender of the pit, they're always going to give you a game. But the Japan game, I'm expecting it to win it. From what I understand, I was reading today, the IFA wafers due to join up after that game, and the Spanish game will probably be a little bit too close to get her out. But they're hoping and praying that they'll have her ready for the New Zealand game, which will be a massive boost for them to come back, because she's just a phenomenal player. There's no other way to describe it.
She's world class. She's world class.
Yeah. Look, it is really going to come down to who finishes first and second. I think if we finish second in the group, we'll most likely be facing Canada, which is that's going to be a big ask. So, but I do believe that team is capable on their day of beating just about anyone that's go out in front of them. You know, they will give anyone a game. Again,
a lot of those Canadian players, Richard, play in the Premiership.
Yeah, it is from a female point of view. The English and the French leagues are probably the best in the world. You know, they've been professional for longer than pretty much anyone else, and
yeah.
We are playing catch up, but we are starting to catch up. If you see what I'm saying, you know, and kudos to the IRFU for doing that. You know, they have invested money into it, and it's probably a more a 10-year project than a 5-year project, but it will come. I do believe that it will come.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Richard. Greg, your thoughts on the opening games, the pool stages, the games that the Irish women have coming up? We had, I'll pretext this, Greg. We had Fiona Hayes on here about 2 weeks ago. A great guest like yourself, and she was saying that it could turn out that the Irish women will meet France in the quarterfinals, depending on how the results go. And Fiona Hayes was kind of confident that we would give France a game. What do you think, Greg?
Yeah, look, I was fortunate to be with the team in 2014 when we beat New Zealand, and that also was the last pool game we played. We played 2 games prior to that. The big thing for me again would be I went on tour with the Irish team to Japan in 2022, and we won the first game well, and they won the second game. It finished 1-1, and they play with such pace, like proper pace, that if you're not getting up off the ground and into the defensive line quickly, and you get into that fast-paced game, they're very, very difficult to play against. And they have 3 or 4 players that are superb. Like their halfback is very strong. So I think it goes back to my point about who's available. Like Aoife Wafer, because she does generate so much, and I'll talk about it later, HML, high metabolic load. It means that she's got loads of intensity. You miss the ability to make dents and holes in the defense line. So if you're attacking and you're not getting over the gain line with fast ball, it's very hard then to get your attack going forward. So it puts more pressure on the likes of Sam when you don't have Erin King there either. And Dorothy Wall also missing means that you're missing out on those players who have the ability to dent the line. So my concern would be that if you're not denting the line and Japan have the opportunity to get the defense line all on their feet, it could be quite hard against Japan because they play with so much pace. Spain are quite innovative, but they lack speed that Japan do have, and their set piece is vulnerable. I think Ireland will have way more than Spain do. But that first game, I think, is going to be tricky. I really do. I think Japan can play, and Ireland just needs to be in the right place. And like I think Richie said it, of all the players I coached, Aoife Wafer's, not going into data again, but her data is off the charts.
But Greg, we can't rely on one player.
No, it's
no
not,
team can.
Her as a player, it's her as an athlete. And the thing is, with this Irish group, they've improved considerably. They're getting great coaching. They are getting better game on game. But we saw even against Canada, and Canada are a top side. They've got some very, very good players. But if you're struggling to win the gain line, you're going to struggle to win a game. It's become detriment in the women's game more so than ever. So if Ireland can have good starter plays, get speed on the ball, and get their attack moving, they're absolutely excellent. It's when it slows down, do they have the players who have the ability to go forward ball again and to be able to play in the front foot? That's going to be really important this World Cup.
Right. Okay, so if everything goes according to plan, according to Fiona Hayes' plan, and we meet France in the quarters, are France that good? Are France a level above? They're really on a level with England at the moment in professionalism. Would you be confident, Greg, that we would give France a game? Put it that way.
Yeah, like personally for me, I now think it used to be the top 4, in my opinion, were separated from the remaining people in the competition. I now think the top 3 are separated from the remaining teams in the competition. I think this French side is vulnerable. I think they showed it during the Six Nations. As good as they are, they're certainly, I know their coach is trying for them to play with less structure. I often thought they already played with less structure. But
yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, yeah.
And I think with this Irish team, I know Hugh Hogan has left, who was the defence coach, which is a really strange call because I thought their defence during the Six Nations was absolutely outstanding. It was the best part of their game, and you need your defence to be really at the top level against these teams. I absolutely think Ireland could beat France, but it requires Ireland getting to a certain level and France coming down to a certain level, I think, for that to happen. But, anything has happened, right? You get a good momentum in a World Cup. You get a good win. Things go well against New Zealand. I think that's Ireland then in a position where they can go into the next game, whether it's France or whether it is Canada. And hopefully compete. Yeah.
Okay. Dara Weston, welcome after you, because I know you were working late and you had to do some stuff with people in the States. So welcome, Dara. How the hell are you, buddy?
Humblest apologies. I'm
Not at all,
grand.
not at all.
How are you?
Okay. Yeah, we're all good. Dara, me, Greg, you've met Matt and the other Richie there before.
Hey, Greg, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Fantastic mustache.
It is a fantastic mustache, isn't it? It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. Okay, a few comments. Mike Reedy, one of our colleagues. Evening all. Welcome, Greg. Gregor Galway. Evening all. Our guest is looking smart. Oh my! There you are.
Is that a
Greg,
dig
now.
at the rest of us now? Is it?
It probably is. Yeah, we're all scruffy. We're all scruffy looking, and Greg is smart. All right, we leave it at that. Okay, our another colleague of ours, comics biggest fan, James Grennan. Hi, Greg. Great to see you on our wee show. Big fan. Regards, James. Okay.
James.
There we
Thank you.
go. We just hide that. Okay. Now, Dara, sorry, just to play a bit of catch up. We were talking about the Women's World Cup, the pool stages, the women's first 3 games. I mentioned we had, I think you were on that show when we had Fiona Hayes on.
I was.
You were. And she said, all going according to plan, I just said this to Greg, that we might meet France in the quarterfinals and we would give them a game. The first 3 games, the opening 3 games, Dara, how do you see them going?
Oh, look, I'm very optimistic for the girls in green, so I see them basically winning everything. I'm not.
God.
I've been hanging around with Americans too long today. I'm not letting any negativity in. So,
Get off the fence there, will you?
Yeah, get off the fence. Yeah, will you? Okay, Dara, let me just call them out to you. The first game is this Sunday at 12 p.m. against Japan.
Yeah. So, I think I see us beating Japan.
Okay, Greg was mentioning some of Japan's dangerous aspects in attack. Their second game is again on a Sunday on the 31st of August, which is against Spain in Franklin's Gardens. Against Spain, do you think we should beat that? Win that?
I think we should beat Spain.
Okay, and the final group game is the big one on September 7th against New Zealand, Dara. That's what's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's playing the Silver Ferns, that's always a big one. But, look, we've seen in the past few years that both the Silver Ferns and the All Blacks are not invincible, and it's becoming more frequent that other teams beat them. Ireland have a good record in the last 10 years of beating teams from New Zealand. So, I don't think there's that kind of fear there. Okay, there shouldn't really be a fear for professional sports players going out to play another team. But I know what you mean. Yeah. But that intimidation of them should be. Look, they're still a great team, but I think you have to believe the girls are going to win, and if they don't, then so be it.
Yeah,
I'm backing them to win it.
Just on what you said about New Zealand and the Silver Ferns. I don't think that New Zealand have gone backwards. I think that all the other rugby teams have improved. It's not that New Zealand have fallen off. It's just that other teams have caught up.
No, that's it. I think for years other teams have been playing catch up with New Zealand, and I think when you look certainly in the home nations. I mean, if you look at the IRFU are probably doing quite well in terms of their structures, etc. And so that now, we have a proper professional setup supposedly for the women. They should be coming on leaps and bounds, and it should be a lot easier to catch up to where
yeah, okay. Thanks, Sarah. Would you agree with that, Greg? Those points raised there by Richard and Dara?
Yeah, they're very good points. Like a little tidbit, when I was with USA in Japan in 2019, I met up with Robbie Deans for lunch and a bit of coffee. And he said to me, hey, Greg, I'm going to be joined by Leslie McKenzie. I didn't know who Leslie McKenzie was, and at the time I was only involved in the men's game. He said Leslie is one of the smartest coaches he has ever coached with. So anyway, lunch came, Leslie rocked in. She's a Canadian born who lived in New Zealand, who's now the head coach of Japan. And she was so on the ball. So then go forward a couple of years, I'm coaching Ireland, she's coaching Japan, and we played Japan, and between week 1 and week 2, we talked about after the game, they beat us in the first game, in the second game, we won the first game. And she went through, she showed me, because I'd always say to them, what do you do to prepare for Ireland? Because I want to know what other coaches think. I always ask that question, always, with the opposition coach. And her detail was brilliant. But before that, I worked at World Rugby before I took over the Irish job, and she also works for World Rugby. And when I say that she is a good coach, I just don't think she underestimate Japan. I think the Irish team have enough to beat Japan, but the Japan side will play with so much pace, that we're going to have to really be locked in defensively to match their ability on the ball. They're going to be a surprise package. I think Spain will be a game that we will win with too much. And depending on results and bodies and injury, and hopefully people wait for his fit, I think that changes things for Japan for the New Zealand game, because we need to have players who have the ability to inject energy and pace. And Aoife Wafer is one of those players that can do that and dent lines. So Japan's tricky. Spain's a win. New Zealand, I think anything can happen if players are fit.
Right. Okay. Good point. Okay. Moving on, gentlemen. Sorry, Matt, did I ask you about this? No, did I?
Yeah.
I did. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Matt, I want to ask you this. We're moving on from the Women's World Cup, but we'll come back to it at the end of the show. This article that appeared in the Daily Telegraph, a massively reliable, trusted source of information, the Daily Telegraph. They, if you can get the sarcasm there, they shared a story about American teams joining, Matt, the URC with the two Axe, the Axe Welsh teams. Is this a runner for you? American teams joining the URC. Now, people have said, Matt, well, look, it's not as bad as the flight to South Africa just to go to the States and vice versa and blah, blah, blah. But, Matt, what do you think of all this?
Is it definitely confirmed that
No, it's not. It's not confirmed. It's not confirmed.
The two Welsh teams are being axed?
I think that has been confirmed, but the American teams has not.
That has been confirmed.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as I'm aware.
Okay, so in terms of like for the American teams to progress their rugby skills, they need proper games. So in that respect, it's probably a good idea that they join to get better, to progress the rugby in America. I wouldn't be massively familiar with American rugby and the rugby teams that they have over there, so I can't really say too much. But if it's a case that they want to develop, yeah, it's a good idea. But is it a right now solution? Probably not, because if you throw in two American teams that they're technically only maybe semi-pro in standards of their rugby, they're going to get demolished in the URC. Like, so it's probably not a solution for right now, but it's definitely something that could be looked in for the future, because the game is only going to get bigger. It's only going to want to be developed in countries that it's not. They're already talking about maybe touring the Lions in America and this type of thing. So there's rumors of everything. So yeah, maybe down the line a bit, it could be a really good idea. But for right now, I don't think so.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Matt. Dara Weston, American teams joining the URC. How does that sit with you?
No stranger than, when South African teams were rumored to be joining the top 14. Was it the Pro 14 at the time?
Pro 12 back then, wasn't it?
Or Pro 12, sorry, Pro 12. kind of no stranger than when the Italian teams were going to come in to the Celtic League or the Pro 12.
No, but hold on, Dara, hold on.
So,
I'm just hold on.
Yeah.
Let me just cut across for a second.
Yeah.
South Africa had an international test squad. Italy had an international test squad. America, kind of.
America
You know
has
what I mean?
an international test squad, and America are the darlings of World Rugby because World Rugby really want to grow the sport there. So America will probably get a World Cup, things like that. So, I mean, I get the impression that if you throw America into anything, be it a Lions tour, be it, a league competition, you'll get the full backing of World Rugby if to make it happen, if needs be. I mean, like you said there, I mean, it's less of a flight going to the US than it is going to South Africa. There, you may get more of kind of expat fans going to the games. I mean, if we look, Adam Byrne went over to Chicago.
Cathal Marsh.
Cathal Marsh, and there's another guy whose name escapes me. He was a Leinster player. He went over to America as well. A scrum half, I think he was.
Nick McCarthy.
Nick McCarthy. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a big expat community over in, especially the East Coast cities. So, I mean, if they got one of those if they got some of those East Coast teams on, I could see.
I don't even know a club, an American club.
Personally, I would prefer to see isn't it Tim Kirkpatrick that's over in Georgia?
Yeah.
Remember we were talking about the Georgian Knights, the Georgian national squad having a team that they could put in to help them. Same with the Portuguese maybe coming in, But
I can't see that happening because I tell you why, Dara, and my cynical head will come in here.
Money.
The money, the money. Yes. Okay, yeah. Greg. Sorry, thanks, Sarah. Greg, your thoughts on this? American teams coming into the URC to replace the apparent Welsh teams that are leaving, the two of them. What do you think, Greg?
Yeah, I was lucky to be the head coach of New York in Major League Rugby.
I know that.
I signed Cathal Marsh, and we had Dylan Fawcett was there, who's now in Chicago. Mark O'Keefe was there. Nick McCarthy signed and I left. But, we had ex-All Blacks, a couple of World Cup winners. The league was actually quite strong, believe it or not. At one stage, there was talk of USA Rugby buying a struggling championship side in the UK.
Oh, right. And
essentially bringing over American players and having them, form a club to try and get into the Prem. I think rugby in America is really hard to break through. I can't see it happening. I know that at the moment we have internationals that are regularly going over there. Ireland are there this fall. We also have New Zealand who play quite a lot of matches. South Africa played quite a lot of matches there. Major League Rugby, it's funny. I'm conscious of time and talking too much about this.
No, go on. You have loads of time.
The first iteration of professional rugby in USA, there was one gentleman, Doug Shogener, who bought the league, and he paid for everything and every team. There's a 10-team league. This is about 2015, I think. And he ended up owing money to everybody, and the league had to close. And it was terrible. When the league was founded for a second time, they organized escrow accounts. So teams had to put money into this account to begin with so that they'd always be guaranteed of creditors and players and rents and rates all being paid. And it worked really well. However, so many people in America put money in because they love the game. There's no return on investment. So this year now, going into next year's MLR, we've lost two more teams. Two good teams that were well funded, but the investment's like, I can't do this anymore. We're losing too much money. We're getting nothing back. So I think it's really difficult to get that over the line. No World Rugby would love to see USA competing more, particularly with hosting the World Cup down the line. But I can actually see Portuguese side or a Spanish side coming into the URC before I can see a USA side coming in.
Oh, really? Okay. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. All right. Okay.
Or a Georgian side. Like there's professional rugby now. There's a tier 2 professional league in Europe. Georgia have a number of teams in it, and they're getting their ducks in a row, and they're getting more funding, and they're improving their facilities. I could see, near like the Six Nations, I could see Georgia beginning to want to get into the URC more and more and more. And I think that could happen before USA team does.
Well, let me ask you then. You've just touched. You've just touched on. As you said earlier, Greg, the kids coming in. How are you?
They've gone out to bring the chickens in.
Well, look. Very good. We've had James Grennan has brought his dog Hugo onto this show. So look, nothing surprises us here. So it's all right. But Greg, going back to what you just mentioned something there, the Six Nations. Would you? This has been mentioned, whispered about, expanding the Six Nations, and people have said Georgia, people have said Portugal. Would you be bothered, Greg, expanding the Six Nations, or just leave it the bloody hell alone?
I personally think that the global calendar still needs to be worked on, because the Six Nations is in a window where you can't really add more fixtures to it. If I was in a position, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, if I was in a position, I want to bring more jeopardy into the Six Nations and get rid of, particularly in the last weekend, some dead rubbers. I would have the last place team in the Six Nations playing in a two-leg game against the winners of that tier 2. So, for example, Georgia and Portugal are at the top of that tree. Georgia, we've seen them beating Italy. We've seen them competing against the better nations. I think what they should do to allow more reward in the second tier and more jeopardy in the first tier is give the teams that finish last the opportunity to deserve to stay there by beating the best team in the tier 2. If they can't beat that team,
you want to go for a relegation
promotion
relegation.
Yes,
but not a straight. I don't think you can go straight relegation, particularly when the standard of the top league is so strong and the lower half of the second team is so weak. I don't think that's right, because then Georgia will come up and they might lose by more than Italy. Let's say, for example, they're at the bottom, or Wales at the moment. So I think you give them the opportunity. The last place team, it's a 2-leg game with home and away aggregate, and the winning team goes up to the Six Nations. The losing team is in tier 2.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Richard Holland, what are your thoughts? That's a very interesting idea that Greg just said there. Richard, what do you think about that?
Yeah, look, I understand that the World Rugby are wanting to grow the game everywhere, and the USA is potentially a massive on-top market. It's huge. But as Matt said, it's the level of training and the level of everything in the USA. Is it there? Training facilities, all that, is that in place? I think that needs to be in place before you send the team out, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, just on a side note on that, I think it's sad to see Welsh rugby in the condition that it's in. I mean, irrespective of who you support, you need a strong Wales, you need a strong Scotland for the Six Nations at the very least, or in particular a World Cup. So to see
for the Six Nations, for the World Cup, and for the Lions, Richard, yes,
it's a sad place personally for me to see that. I have Welsh relatives and they live and breathe rugby, and to see how bad it's gone there, it's very disheartening, I suppose. But yeah, look, I would personally prefer to see the Georgians or the Portuguese come in. Now, again, it's going to depend on what the facilities are like in America. What do they have available to them over there? You know, that's a lot of it. Like, for me, it's literally.
I wouldn't say the facilities, Richard, would be an issue.
Well, probably not. But there's also the case of you have to walk before you can run. You know, there is that too.
I mean,
all right.
If you think about it, there's probably high schools in America that have better strength facilities, like better gyms, than we have in our national centre out in Abbottstown.
So some of the colleges certainly, yes.
The professional clubs being there. You know, we have this misperception in America. We talk about the sleeping giant. It's so hard. The facilities are actually surprisingly good. Some of the rugby grounds, the World Cup was there for a reason. They'll be using like San Diego's rugby ground. They just merged with LA, but their rugby ground is absolutely out of this world. Chicago's rugby ground is outstanding. The training facilities, the coaches are outstanding. The issue is that you've got players who've got low experience. A lot of them are crossover athletes from football. It hasn't worked out. They're coming to rugby late. They haven't been playing touch rugby their whole life. They haven't been kicking until it's dark in the local rugby club when the dad's up having pints like we do in Ireland. They don't grow up around it. So they lose that innate ability. It's why if you look at the MLR or the USA team when I coached it, I don't think I coached an American 9 and 10 and hooker in my whole time that I was there. Because they're areas that require like a particular skill set that comes down to years of development and practice. So we like if you look at the MLR now, I'm not sure if there's an American 10 playing or 9 playing in the entire league, bar maybe 1 or 2. Same with hookers. So the facilities are there. The people are mad keen. The rugby community is incredible in America. They just love it. Like Dara said, they're so positive. They all work for free. Well, lots of them do in the amateur game. You don't get paid a penny. Like in Ireland in the 1980s and 90s, if you coach a club side, you were doing it for the love of coaching. You weren't looking for a couple of quid at the end of every week.
So hold on, Greg. The American rugby players don't get paid. Is that right?
They do. Of course they do.
They do get paid. Sorry, I thought you said. Sorry.
No, the backroom staff, the coaching.
The backroom staff. Sorry, Greg. Yeah.
I've no problem talking about budgets with you because, like, you need to know, like, to be a proper pod like you are, it's really important to get the information to the people who are listening. Like, when it came to me getting players in the MLR, we had a certain budget, and the budget was quite high. So we had 2 New Zealand All Black World Cup winning players that joined us. They weren't doing it. Bastro was signed to New York just before I signed for New York. So he was there my first year. You have really good American players. Now, some American players are really, really good players. And they'd be on, maybe between $40,000 and $60,000. Plus they'd get their accommodation paid for. Plus they'd get flights to and from wherever they come from. The best model in America, which probably worked to its detriment, is it doesn't clash with the New Zealand NPC season or so. I found the best value was going to the likes of Wellington, Canterbury, Hawke's Bay, the level just below Super Rugby. A lot of these players have had super contracts but were on the fringes. I used to get those players for next to nothing. So they'd make money with, say, Hawke's Bay, where they might get $25,000. I could pay them, say, $25,000, which now all of a sudden is much more money to them to come over and play in America. The issue is it's not played at a young age in America. That's the issue. The professional game is ready to take off. But until you get people who have the ability to play what they see, to be able to kick the ball, even kicking the ball, they play basketball, they play football, they play lacrosse, they play baseball. None of those things you use your feet. So even kicking with back 3 players, Americans are just not used to it. They don't do it. And they could be 20 years of age. They could have played for USA under 18s and under 20s. And they're great players, great physiques. They're mad keen, but they've never kicked the ball. So that's the issue in America. And at the moment, as I said to you, I'd be looking for a European team and promote and develop European rugby and allow USA slowly work its way into the modern game with funding from the USA, with an increase. I think they need to put money into schools and clubs at a young age. That's where they're missing out because you're never getting those young players coming through like you do in Ireland.
But Greg, is there the appetite for it though? Is the big question.
Well, you're changing a perception. So in America, like again, I feel like I'm hogging this, but like I was a director.
No, you've been there. You're the expert. You've been there.
Director rugby in a university in America for 7 years, and I saw this. I went around to so many schools recruiting. I get phone calls saying, "Hey, you gotta see this guy. He's like a beast." And I'm like, "Oh, what position does he play?" And he goes, "He plays on the wing and prop." And I'm like, "What do you mean he plays on the wing and prop?"
I I often loitered on the wing, but that's about as far as
Rich, you should be.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that they're mad keen, but at the younger level, if I had a magic wand, I would put in community development officers all over America. That's where I'd put my money, to go around schools and introduce them. Because at the moment, if you're anyway athletic, you play football, as in American football.
Yeah.
If you're kind of not really that athletic and you're not good enough to play American football, you join the rugby team.
Yeah.
So at Yale, for the first couple of years, until like the law of attraction started happening, we got a couple of bigger bodies, and then momentum developed. We had guys who weren't good enough to play any other sport. They came to rugby because they were able to drink. And I'm like, no. You can drink after a game. Of course you can. But you're not coming to drink. You're coming to play a really fast-paced game. You need to be athletic. And they didn't have the athletic profile. So you get the dregs in certain places.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And that's the issue. So if you can compete with NFL, like this, the strange thing is, I could see this happening at some stage in rugby. Believe it or believe it not. There's no amateur American football. It's not played. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
So
Even
when
college
you
ball,
leave, you only have professional or you can play.
Now, hold on. So college American football is professional.
Effectively,
When
you go on a
college
scholarship.
America, you can only play in a professional league. Like there's no amateur, like with organized referees and clubs and everything. That's not in America. It doesn't exist.
All right. Okay. I didn't know that.
So those guys, when they're 23, are like, they played at a really high level of football. They're like, geez, you know what? I might give rugby a go because they're big, they're strong, they can play. Like I had one guy, I'll finish on this little piece. I had one guy at Yale who was an absolute monster, who was on the football team, who when football was finished in April of his last year as a senior, he came out and played rugby. So the first rugby training session, I threw him like, just here you go, threw him a ball. He hadn't touched a football in 4 years of rugby at Yale because he was a defensive lineman. Didn't touch the ball once. So I said, Will Chisholm was his name. Unbelievable rugby player. Prop. Unbelievable. Like we never qualified for nationals. He comes to qualify for nationals. This guy never touched a rugby ball in his life. And in the space of 2 weeks, he was our best player by a country mile. So those athletes are all over America, but they're currently down this path of NFL. They need to go down a path to rugby earlier, and then USA, I think, could compete.
But I mean, how long? Sorry, go on, Richard. Yeah.
Could it be a case of doing something like what Conor O'Shea done in Italy? That he got control of
too
everything
big.
So
America,
granted, yeah, but you want to need more than one person, but something similar.
You need centers of excellence, like satellite centers that are controlled by one person, where everyone's aligned, so they're developing the same syllabus from an early age. So they're learning all those cognitive skills that we take for granted. Again, in Ireland at 12, 13, rugby clubs and schools, they learn the prescriptive part of rugby before being able to be autonomous. In the States, they're doing that when they're 20. So it's very late. So, you know, like USA is an amazing place, and I hope it works out for them. They've got a brilliant coach in Scott Lawrence. They've got a great coaching side. They're playing Canada now in the Pacific Nations to see if they can qualify for the World Cup. Scott Lawrence is a brilliant coach. He's an American coach, and I think that's really important. I think there's a couple of good young American coaches. I think you need to get the DNA of America. You need American people. They need to develop their own style and not continuously copy Europe and copy New Zealand. Develop their own way of playing around the athletes they have.
But I tell you, Greg, the look of, like, if we've all seen them, the build and the athleticism of NFL players.
Yeah.
Jeez, you think looking at those lads that they would have a bloody good team.
Yeah, but like Paul Asike, who played for the Chicago Bears, he came over to us, brilliant center. He's from New Zealand originally, went to Chicago Bears, joined USA Rugby. He was there for us winning the Grand Slam and beating Scotland, which is a big day for us there in USA. And he came to the World Cup with us. But American rugby players are designed to go for between 8 and 11 seconds per play. Rugby,
that's NFL. That's NFL training.
Yeah, that's also college. That's high school rugby. So that means that their strength and conditioning program, they can carry a huge amount more fat and a huge amount more muscle and bulk. the average span in rugby is by between 28 and 30 seconds. You can have a match worst case scenario of over 4 minutes, but the average whistle to whistle is 28 seconds. So what I found with Paul Asike was, like, starter play 12, great carrier. But then to get him to go again and to get up and to be continuously involved isn't in their DNA. So for really good footballers to come in, they're conditioned. That's why they're so big, because they can carry lots of weight. If you play rugby and you carry weight, you're not going to be able to laterally tackle or hit a ruck. So,
Greg, I'll say one name to you: Will Skelton. All right.
Yeah,
we'll just,
have you seen Will Skelton's a bit lateral movement? Like that's the thing. That
he's a player, though, Greg. Will Skelton, I'm agreeing with you what you're talking about. You know, but Will Skelton is.
His engine is incredible. Like, as big as he is, he's played rugby for so long that he's conditioned to playing rugby.
I know, but
Yeah.
you never see Will Skelton play 60, 70 minutes of a game. I'm agreeing with the point you're making about the conditioning of American rugby players and whistle to whistle and, you know, all that. But I'm just saying it translates into rugby as well. That sometimes
he's in a club and he's in a country where there's so much more strength and depth that you use him either off the bench to finish a game for the last 40, or you use him for 60 minutes and then you take him off. If he was in America, he'd play 2 games in a row because there's nobody else as good as him. So
true, yeah.
It means that Rowan O'Gara is able to track his minutes and make sure that his conditioning during the week, everything is designed. He won't do the same amount of running as other players. He'd be on particular running. He's not running as much, but his movement, I saw his movement. I mean, don't get me wrong, linebackers in America have incredible functional movement, but Will Skelton's functional movement is incredibly strong for somebody who's big.
It is, and to end this particular subject, Andrew Porter is an exception to that. Porter goes 80 minutes, no problem. Well, you know,
and Porter, I keep mentioning high metabolic loads, so I'll say this really quickly. HMLs is you get recorded 1 HML every time you accelerate, go past your max speed, and decelerate in the game. It's 1 HML. So Josh van der Flier has massive HMLs, for example, and it goes back to the story with the female game. Like Einstein said that not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. So it's not about like looking into data. The one thing about HMLs means the more explosive you are and the more of those you have in a game, the more impact you'll have in the game. So Will Skelton has a high HML value. The Irish women's side, as I said to you, we had low HMLs as a group, which means that ability to make a real impact. Like Aoife Wafer's HMLs are double the next best player. That's how much of a power she has, which means if you have players go high HML, you know they're going to tackle harder, you know they're going to carry harder, you know they're going to hit rucks harder. So Will Skelton's HMLs would be much higher than you think. But you're right, he's a big boy.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, absolutely, yes. Okay, let's say the last thing I want to talk about with you all before we go on to our score predictions. I picked out 3 games that are coming up this weekend. I know there's more, but we just concentrate. Dara West, RTE had conducted a survey on the concussion issue, and they published this survey, and which is, I suppose, quite worrying if you read it. But the point I want to focus in on is that the authors of the study said it was somewhat concerning that 35% of school players said they would continue to play a sport while also having a headache that resulted from a minor concussion. In contrast, only 14% of club players held the same view. Dara, is the education about concussion lacking somewhat in this particular sphere, or what the hell is going on here with this? Because this is quite serious.
I think there's 2 things. I think when you're a teenager, you think you're indestructible.
True.
Okay. By the time you get out of the school system and you go to clubs, you've probably started working. So, you know, you're going to get shit if you can't go into work because you have massive headaches and stuff like that. So you're taking more care of your body. Whereas if you get injured playing rugby in school, you get a couple of days off school and you're a legend. So I think it's part of that it's and also playing a sport in school can actually, if you're on the SCT, that's your identity. So you won't necessarily want to miss the next match because then you're no longer an active part of the SCT. You're only a sub, or you're on, you know, HIA for a couple of weeks, and next thing you're not as important as you were in the school. But it is obviously the main thing is it's going to be very worrying to parents, and you know it's going to cause a lot of parents kind of anxiety about their sons and daughters playing rugby. So the one thing I think they need to do in schools rugby is these new smart gum shields that they're going to be trialing at the Rugby World Cup, the Women's Rugby World Cup, where they start flashing, the gum shield starts flashing red when it detects an impact of over a certain number of Gs. That they start bringing them into schools as well. And basically the rule is going to be, if your gum shield is flashing red, you have to go off for HIA. You know, now look, it may, we'll see how it works out in the Rugby World Cup, because it may be the case that you're having multiple HIAs on the same team at the same time. So, you know, it may mean you need to expand the number of substitutes available for HIAs, not necessarily the number of overall substitutes for the game, but maybe you need to have a larger pool of substitutes that you can bring somebody on for HIA, you know.
That's I like that. That's a good point. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of, you know, really it's just young lads, young girls, they think they're indestructible. There's no real ramification if you get injured. Worst going to happen, you're going to miss a bit of school. You might not be able to go to a party or something like that. By the time you get to the club stage, you know, you have a job or something like that you have to actually turn up at. Otherwise, you don't get paid, or you'll get hassle off somebody. And you're, you know, you've had a couple of dirty hangovers and stuff, and you're a bit more aware of your mortality.
Okay, yeah, that's a very fair point. Yes, a very fair point. Yeah, thanks, Dara. Yeah, Matt Boland, would you agree with Dara? I tend to agree with everything Dara just said there. I can imagine. I remember myself at that age, 16, 17, playing rugby, getting knocked out, going, "No, I'm grand. Go on, let me back on." The magic sponge.
He's going to Club 92, lads.
Yeah, a slice of orange down to Annabelle's afterwards. Matt, what would you think about that?
Well, look, I agree with Dara as well. I mean, like when I was playing rugby years and years ago, I remember turning up to a game and there was only 15 players. So we literally only could field a team. We didn't have any substitutes. And in the first, I think, 5 minutes, I was getting up from a ruck and I got kneed in the face by a prop. Broke my nose, blood everywhere, went off. And I said to the coach, have we any subs? And he tapped me on the back and said, no, back on you go. That was it. And unfortunately, back then, it wasn't such a well-known thing. And as Dara was saying, it's a status symbol as well. Like if you're in the school and you're getting taken out of school because you have to board or jump on a bus to go travel for an away match or something. And it's that type of thing. But I think if you look at that, you were saying what was the percentage of kids said they would play on?
35% of school players said they would continue to play a sport while also having a headache brought on by a concussion.
I would say that has deteriorated in the last few years. So I'd say the percentage has dropped probably, which is probably
this is only a recent survey, Matt. This only come out.
No, I know. But I'd say if you did that survey about 5 or 6 years ago, that percentage would be higher. So it's probably coming down, which is probably a good thing. And this whole technology now with the gum shield, I think is absolutely fantastic because, you know, we didn't know that much about concussions years ago, and it's been more prevalent now, and they're bringing in all these tests like the HIA to assess and all that sort of stuff. But then if you look at recent events with Gary Ringrose and he excluding himself because he had a headache, kids are going to listen to that as well and go, well, if it's okay for him to do it, it's okay for me to do it. And it's not going to be it's not going to look so bad or reflect bad on me now, because when pros are doing it, it's grand. And I think that was a really good example to be said as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely. I totally agree with you, Matt. Richard, quickly, because we're over the hour mark and we've 3 games to call our win, lose, or draw.
Yeah, no, I think the gum shield is a good idea because it eliminates that grey area. Is he, isn't he? If you have a gum shield and it's flashing red, you can't fake that. You know, you can't say, "Oh, I'm grand, I'm fine." You know, it's like that old Snickers ad with the NFL player. You know, I'm Batman. You know, they could literally go down that road.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. But yeah, look, as someone who on a couple of occasions can't remember finishing games, and it has happened to me where I took a bang in the first 10 minutes, and the next thing I can remember, I'm in the bar after the match to this day, and it's a scary thing. Like, you know, when you're thinking back on it, you know, because everything's kind of fuzzy and you're not right for 3 days, and you're sick, and you have a headache, and you don't know what's wrong, and you're listless and everything. It's a scary thing, and I think it's something that needs to be looked at, certainly. But as Dara said, it's a teenager being a teenager going, "Oh, I'm fucking fine, I don't care."
Yeah,
You know,
I know.
there is a lot of that in it, and I think it's probably a little bit of education. You know, you could talk to someone in maybe a former rugby player or whatever, or soccer player who had to retire because of concussion, and get him in to talk to these guys and tell them this is what could happen to you. You know, it's not a joke. If you don't feel right, you say it. Yeah, and you definitely don't feel right with a concussion like that. I can attest to that. It's the weirdest experience. It's like being tipsy drunk without the fun, for want of a better thing.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Okay, all right, folks, over the hour mark. Let's look forward to, and we'll end it on this. Greg McWilliams, I will have you as the last voice on the show. This is the part of the show that always the end of it, where we have we predict the win, lose, or draw of the games. Now I know there's loads on, but I picked 3. Dara Weston, South Africa, the Rugby Championship, South Africa versus Australia. There's been a few changes to the teams playing. How do you see this one going, Dara?
I mean, obviously, part of me wants to see South Africa's losing streak continue. And actually,
Yes.
as Richard was saying, God help Wales, we should probably point out Wales have a better winning streak at the moment than South Africa, because Wales have won 1 game.
Oh.
You just
Okay.
Get rid of whatever South African fans we have out there.
That's one from Mike Reedy there straight away.
Yeah.
I think as much as Joe has improved the Australian team, I think it's going to be personal now for the South Africans, and I think they're going to be pissed off. And you know, there was an element of, I mean, they went ahead a lot in the first game, and then they kind of looked like they took their foot off the gas, and the Aussies really got their momentum going. I think it'll be a South African win. Okay. I don't think it's going to be hockey in now. I'd say South Africa by maybe 1-2 scores.
All right. Okay. The Irish women are playing their first Rugby World Cup game against Japan. Who's winning? Who's losing? Who's drawing that?
Irish women are going to win it. And I'd say, no disrespect to Japan, but I'd say maybe 2 tries. By 2 tries.
Okay. And the Rugby Championship again, Argentina are playing New Zealand. Is it going to be a repeat of last weekend's game?
I think actually, I'll stick my neck out and say I think the RGs might do it. I think Argentina win.
I'm just trying to check where this is being played. It's in Argentina, yeah.
It's in Buenos Aires.
Yeah. Nick Berry is the referee. Okay, Matt Boland. Thanks, Darren, for that. Matt Boland, to you. Who's winning? South Africa versus Australia, round 2 of the Rugby Championship.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to see a reaction from the South Africans. I think they got hurt last weekend. There was a lot of pride taken away from them as well. So I think with the changes that he's enforced, I'd say South Africa are going to win.
Yeah.
As much as I'd love to see Australia do it again, I know,
yeah. And they had a 22-point lead taken away from them, Matt, as well.
Yeah, and 38 unanswered. So.
Yeah, well, there you go. The Irish women are taking on Japan, Matt, in the first round of the Women's Rugby World Cup.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Irish women, and I think they'll do it by maybe 10 or 12 points.
Okay. Argentina versus New Zealand. Are we going to see a repeat of what happened in round one?
I'd just like to point out I predicted last weekend New Zealand would win by 17 points.
That's fantastic. Well done. Go you.
So I'm gonna go with a New Zealand win again, but I think it's going to be a little less, and I think it might be 7 or 8 points.
I think it'll be the same, Matt. I have a funny feeling it'll be the same. Okay, thanks, Matt. Richard Holland, South Africa versus Australia.
I'm expecting a big push from South Africa, a big pushback, but I think they'll win it, but it's going to be relatively close. It's going to be no more than 5 or 6 points.
So a South African win, Richard?
Yeah, by 5 or 6 points.
Okay. The Irish women against Japan in the World Cup?
I'm hoping it'll be at least 10 to 12 points on that one, about an Ireland win. I think they will win it, but I'm hoping 10 to 12 points.
Okay. Thanks, Richard. And finally, Richard, Argentina are taking on New Zealand.
New Zealand, but it'll be a closer game.
I think it's going to be more the same. All right. Okay. Thanks, Richard. Okay. Greg McWilliams, our guest this evening, the last voice on the show. Let's hear your predictions. South Africa versus Australia, Greg. How do you see that going?
Yeah, I think Darren made a very fair point. South Africa came out very strong. They lost their way a little bit. And I think Australia, particularly from the Lions experience, have developed good grit, good character under Joe Schmidt. So they'll be gritty. But I can see South Africa winning it by 46 points to 12, maybe 46 points.
Hold on. Have you just had a fucking stroke or something there, Greg, in the last... You think South Africa are going to be... Hold on. Go on. Call out your scoreline there against South Africa. What, 46?
Mid 40s to 14, maybe. I think what you're going to see is, from the experience of last week, they're evolving their game to be much more attack orientated. You can see Tony Brown, Felix back in, Jerry Flannery's had a big role to play. I think they've experimented with players. You can see they've made some big changes this week. They put a bit more weight. I think their set piece would have been stripped apart and rebuilt this week. I think the scrum will have a massive part to play. I think when you humble South Africa the way Australia did, I'm telling you now, South Africa come out and they're going to be so physical, and I don't think Australia can cope with that.
Okay, fair enough. But are you? I wasn't being facetious there with my.
I want you to be facetious. I want this conversation. I want to have a debate. I don't want to have yes people.
No, I know that you won't get that here. Are you seriously going to say that there's going to be a 30-point winning gap between South Africa and Australia this weekend?
Yeah. And also, the way South Africa's game has evolved, they're playing it more with. And I'd say their work this week would be right. Okay, look, we've worked so much on our skill. We've worked so much on our transition play. And it really has changed considerably. They're playing so much more rugby than they have before. I think now what they'll do is they're going to mix the old with some of the new. So,
no.
Yeah, 30 points, 46 points to 14.
Sorry, lads. I may shoot off there.
You got to go. Go on, Richard. Yeah. You got to go meet your dad for a few points. Go on. Sorry, I forgot about that. Go on.
It was nice to talk to you, Greg.
Go on. Good luck, Richard. Sorry, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Enjoy your points with your dad.
Greg. Having Franco Mozart in the back row is a crazy decision for South Africa, but there's a reason why he's there. It's an extra line-out option. Their line-out didn't function very well. They lost control. So I think they've put a team in place that are going to be much better in the air, better out of touch, and I think they're going to destroy Australia.
Right, come here to me. I want to put a bet on with you, Greg. Right, and I will revolute you or whatever.
Betting.
Oh, you hate it. I bet you a tenner. Right, that the score line between South Africa and Australia will be it'll be half of what you say it's going to be. You say it's going to be about 30. I'd say it'll be 10 to 15, Greg.
It's in Cape Town, right?
I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
So hold on. Is it? Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Yeah.
Is Jesse Creel captain for the first time?
How are you?
Yeah, I'll take that bet. I'll take
So,
that bet.
it's in DHL Stadium, Greg.
Yeah, I'll take that bet.
All right, okay. I'm just writing it down. So I'm going 10 to 15, Greg. You're going 30 plus. Yeah?
No. If you're going 10 to 15, it's a 5 point markup. I'll go between 24 and 29.
All right, okay. Hold on. Greg, 24, 29. I'm going 10 to 15.
Yeah. The closest
Yeah, okay.
the closest to it wins the money. So if South
Yeah.
Africa win by 20 and I won the split, well, then I win.
Yeah, all right. I'll have to watch this back because I'll forget the lads know. And I'm like,
We
all
won't
right.
forget. Don't worry.
You won't forget.
I've
Okay.
actually written it down.
Okay. Greg, second game, the Irish women, you were talking about the dangers of Japan earlier on. So the Irish women, their first game in the Rugby World Cup is up against Japan. Who's winning? Who's losing? Who's drawn?
I have to say they're going to win. Otherwise,
No, but you can say whatever you want. You can say whatever you want.
I think Japan will put it up to Ireland the first half. I think there'll be a lot of tension going into half time. I think this Japan side is currently being underestimated, and their head coach, as I said to you, I think is a phenomenal coach. I see Ireland winning, see it being a high scoring game because I see Japan having the ability to score a lot of points. 27-19 to Ireland is my prediction.
All right, okay. I would go along with.
But unfortunately, as I said to you, I think this Japan side is being underestimated, and I think the Irish team won't underestimate them. But I think people just presume it's Japan and Ireland will win. This Japan side play beautiful rugby and at great speed.
All right. Okay, we should look forward to it. And finally, Greg, Argentina are playing New Zealand. Is, as I've said to the gentleman before you, is it going to be a repeat of round 1 of the Rugby Championship where Argentina kind of fell away?
I do. I loved the game. Obviously, I watched both games last weekend. I much preferred the New Zealand, Australia, or Argentina game. I thought the stadium was brilliant. I thought the atmosphere was brilliant. And I thought New Zealand, again, I think the pace of that game was just a level up. In fairness to Argentina, I love what they're doing at the moment. Felipe's doing an amazing job.
Yes.
I think New Zealand are also improving under Razor, and I can see New Zealand winning that, by 20 points.
By 20, but yeah, I'd probably agree with you there, Greg. Yeah,
I'll go for it. Do you know what? I'm going to go bizarrely because, only because South Africa game has evolved. I think they've got the ability to score more tries than just kick pressure. So that's why I think they have the ability to score over 40 points. But New Zealand, I can see it being a similar scoreline. I can see mid-40s to mid-teens, New Zealand or Argentina.
All right. Okay, okay. All right. Okay. Thank you all. Jeez, we're 14, 15 minutes over time. Okay, folks, that is all we have time for this evening. Again, as always, we are going way over time. My thanks are to Richard Holland, who had to leave us because he's gone for a pint with his dad. Nothing wrong with that. Also, my thanks to Matt Boland and to Dara Weston, and also our special guest. He is always welcome on this show. Greg McWilliams, you're an absolute gent, and it's a pleasure. Was a pleasure chatting with you, Greg. Thanks a million, buddy.
I loved it. Thanks so much. Thanks for what you're doing, and also to Dara, to Matt, and to Richie. It's just good to hear your opinions around the game. It's really interesting. So thanks for having me on.
Not at all. We would.
Thanks, Bill.
I can just say, Greg, best of luck trying to get that work.
Good luck, and enjoy the rest of your evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Trips.
See you.